Dr. Hall, good afternoon to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. What does this mean? What kinds of messages and how could they have been spied upon and compromised?
Well, so the idea is that Centre 18, which is linked to the FSB, it's part of one of the many centres within the FSB, was involved in spear phishing, creating fake accounts that were linked to names that people would know, and then they would get the information by people sending out the data through emails and certain things. So this is how it seems to have been happening and has apparently been going on in some cases since 2015.
And I'm just wondering how they think that infiltrating these sorts of communications in this way will affect our democracy or have an impact on our government or have an impact on the way that they deal with our government. And what sorts of things are they hoping to uncover, do you reckon?
Well, I mean, we still don't know quite what the information is that they've uncovered. Certainly, what little has been published is, I imagine, a very small fragment of what they've been able to find. It is the idea that the FSB Centre 18 will do these spear phishing emails, the people will pass the information on, and then that information will be distributed to Russia media channels, linked in some opaque way to the Russian state, and they will publish those, and that will provide certain information that the British government doesn't want to be made public. It will also help to split the electorate as well.
Is this partly because our MPs, our ministers, our government is too lax in terms of cybersecurity, hasn't taken the appropriate measures to make sure that they have impenetrable passcodes and God knows what, so that they can't be spied upon in this way? Or is it because it's just impossible to stop spies if they're determined enough?
I'm not a cybersecurity expert, so I wouldn't be able to say what tools the government is using. It isn't just politicians that have been targeted as well, it has to be said. It's academics, it's people working in civil society, it seems to be also journalists. So it has been a very broad spear phishing exercise, and they are trying to find as much information as possible. I think that there is always going to be the case of trying to keep up with what the FSB is doing. It has a lot of resources provided by the Russian state to do this sort of thing. And there's only so much that people in government, but also journalists and universities can do in terms of trying to find ways around this situation.
We did an item quite recently on the programme about the Chinese spying upon us. And the fascinating part of the conclusion reached was that they weren't simply spying on our government or spying on our, nuclear sources or any of that kind. They were spying, among other things, on our creativity, on our blueprints and patents and research and development, and trying to save themselves millions and millions of pounds in similar investment in business and in creativity and in production by just nicking ours at the 11th hour. Are you aware of Russia trying to do a similar thing?
I don't necessarily know if Russia is, certainly it might be doing this to a degree, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. Similar to what has been happening in China, we know that China has focused on getting R&D at as you said, at the 11th hour and then expanding on it. I think Russia, under Putin at least, being a personalist autocracy, is far more concerned at trying to destabilize the international order that Putin believes is detrimental to Russia. And I think this is more of the target with what the FSB has been doing. It isn't just Britain. The FSB has been in other countries as well, America, plausibly, Germany, France, supporting opposition, using Russia today before the 2022 invasion on Ukraine. So it has tried to undermine democracies in the West, and it's trying to change the international order to a far greater extent than I think China is, which does see a benefit to the international order, although it would like to have a greater say on how it's being done, whereas Russia would like to take a bomb to the entire situation.
Gosh, well, that's a very reassuring note to end our conversation on, isn't it?
Sorry.
Russia would like to take a bomb to the entire situation. You say that as an expert on Russian foreign policy and Russian politics. Would like to take a bomb? Are you being frivolous or are you being serious?
I'm being slightly frivolous. I think that certainly Russia would like to change the international order because it doesn't benefit Russia. I spoke out of turn, and I apologize in terms of the use of bomb epithets. It wasn't very helpful. But certainly I think that Russia is trying to change the international order that will benefit it and will weaken the West to a far greater degree than I think China is trying to do.
Thank you for joining